Hello and welcome to Sport Tonight. I'm Cecilia Omogbe. And of course, on the show tonight, obviously, it's all about the FIFA World Cup, the conclusion and the lessons we've learned from what Morocco did in Qatar. And not just that, the fact that NWFL, of course, match day 4, we'll also talk about that. And we'll be having special guests on the show that will be telling us what Nigeria can actually learn from what Morocco did, especially preparations, investment in infrastructure, and also the special interviews Austin did while he was in Qatar that had to do with some administrators who are trying as much as possible to see how they can grow sport in Nigeria. And of course, when Austin is ready, he will join me on the show. First of all, let's just start up with this one, which is lessons from Qatar. And our special guest, obviously, will be joining us. Dakpo Daramola will be joining us to take a look at this. And, of course, what the fans, what they enjoy most in Qatar and what other countries can do differently. He will not just be the only one joining us on the program tonight. Kehinde Idris is also in the building on tonight's show. But first, let's talk about Lionel Messi. You know what Messi did at the World Cup. Everyone has been talking about him, the greatest of all time, and the fact that he literally, single-handedly led his country to the World Cup. Yes, you had other people who scored, but for him to play a major role, it's been a talking point over the years. So Austin Okonakman is ready right now. Austin, you were in Qatar, you watched the semi-finals and the finals, and I believe for you, you enjoyed it so much. Good evening.
Sporty greetings to you, Cecilia, and of course our viewers joining us from different parts of the world. I'm super excited to be on the show tonight. And Cecilia, what a story Qatar gave to us. They told a beautiful story beyond football, but I'm glad the football also got us talking. I think we saw arguably the best FIFA World Cup final since 1930. Kehinde and Daramola can come on and dispute it, but I think that's the best World Cup final we've ever seen. And Cecilia, I'm so proud, blessed, fulfilled that I was right there at the Lusail Stadium to witness the greatest show of football ever. What a story France and Argentina told us. Look, it defines two things: the end of an era and the beginning of another one. But Lionel Messi came out and said, look, they must address me as a World Cup winner, so I want to go on. I love the stories coming out of this World Cup.
I mean, when you talk about how incredible it was it about the shocks? Was it about the fact that it was so unpredictable that you don't even know the team that is going to win until the final whistle? We thought when Argentina were 2 goals up, yeah, it's going to be a regular time, 90 minutes and we'll be done, just like what happened against Croatia. But somehow, football happens, yes. That's how it's been all through, from the quarter, right from the group stage when Saudi Arabia shocked Argentina, up till the semi-finals, up till when Morocco almost, did everything they could to stay in the tournament. But somehow the French, of course, they were, when it comes to map power and everything, talent, they were better, technical inputs and everything changed the football for them.
You won't understand the feeling when you were watching it on TV. You need to be right there at the stadium.
Austin, now stop talking about you being there, because right now I'm jealous. What kind of English is the building? We have to bring in Kehinde Idris into this right now. Kehinde Idris is right here, Austin, so he needs to talk about this, because Kehinde, Austin is making us so jealous. He said we needed to be there. Yes, he was there, I understand that, but he's making us so jealous right now, and I'm not really happy.
I totally agree with you. Good evening to, our follower. Also, good evening to Austin. I understand your feeling, but also there is something about having something special. You want to, go on, to talk about it, and it's the FIFA World Cup. You won't get this. Cecilia, if you want to be at the venue of a World Cup, you will wait for another 4 years, till 2026. So for this, let Austin get his ground to do that. But I understand what you're saying. It makes you feel like, maybe we can go 2 days back or so, and then I'll be there. But for everything that was... Now you imagine we who were watching on TV, who were watching, on the biggest of screens and all of that. At a point, we got drained. At a point, we couldn't stand on our legs again. It was feeling like, okay, let it just end. Anybody who takes it, where are you guys taking us? Although, when it was all Argentina, some of us felt, please, let us have a fight. Let's have a final. Let it feel like, you know, this is competitive.
Like what happened in 2018, we didn't want that.
Exactly.
4-2.
And then when they gave us what a final looks like, we were asking for it to stop. This is, Austin said, probably the best World Cup since 1930. I totally agree. Because why I agree is the fact that...
Did you watch the 1930 World Cup?
I didn't. That's where I'm going. For all the World Cup finals I've seen, this is the best. I don't want to argue with my granddads and my dads who had watched, you know, from 1930, and, you know, probably Austin had also watched a lot more. The ones I've seen, this is the best final, really. Okay. From the 88th minute, it woke to what we expected, and then up until 123 minutes, this was football. Even the penalty gave us a whole lot to see.
A whole lot. I mean, Martinez, yes, hero for the night. Dakwa Daramola is right here. Is going to be joining us on Zoom to also talk about Qatar and the things we need to take away from that country, from the hosting where people had the ability to be able to watch up to 3 games in a day. I mean, it's remarkable. I was listening to the first interview Austin did with Amanju Pinnick when he said, as at the time it was a final, going to the final, he said he has watched 54 games already. Dakwa Daramola will be joining us right now. Good evening. It's good to have you join us.
Always a pleasure. And it's so nice to see you, Cecilia. It's been a while. How are you doing?
Yeah, it's been a while. Thank you for joining.
Don't worry. Don't get jealous. Let Austin revel in the fact that, you know, in itself it's a story, really, for any journalist to be at the World Cup, Olympics, you know, African Cup of Nations, but more importantly, the World Cup. It's a milestone. And so let Austin enjoy it. He has the rights. He has the
so I should stop beefing him. All right, no more beef.
Don't worry. You'll be covering the next one. So
I won't have opportunity to watch 2 or 3 games in a day because you have Mexico, Canada, USA. That's a whole lot across 3 countries.
A whole lot of traveling.
A lot of traveling that you have to do. All right, Dakwa, I mean, it's been a wonderful World Cup, of course. You saw what Qatar did, a country of about 2.5 million people being able to pull off something together. 32 teams, more than how many, the footballers, you know, the fans who came on, they were preparing for 1.2 million fans who came to join them in their country. And we didn't have any issues security-wise or theft, apart from the deaths that were recorded. But then we had a kind of a football that everyone could enjoy. What are you going to take away from Qatar, the organization of the World Cup?
Maybe I should start on the sarcastic note, really, because people have said ban alcohol from the stadium. just repeat the Qatar style, and then everything will be normal as far as the fans are concerned. Really, but I don't know how that helps. You know, FIFA sponsors like Budweiser. But really, would that be the magic? I don't know. Could it be the money they spent? Because everybody is still talking about whether it's going to over between 200 to about 220 billion US dollars. We are still talking about that, and I'm sure the figures will come out eventually. So when you compare that to the biggest one before was 15 billion US dollars that Brazil spent, and even South Africa spent under $4 billion to host the World Cup. So if you look at it, could it be the staggering amount that they spent on that World Cup? Maybe. So a lot of factors, you know, will come into this. But what Qatar has shown everybody is that money is good. Monday can do a lot of things, number one. And so everybody was comfortable. Again, like I said, banning beer or alcohol from the stadium itself and keeping them pretty far away. Possibly that helped that you don't have English people fans fighting after they lost against, you know, against France and all of that. I don't know. So many things could be responsible. But for me, I think like everybody has, you know, said, Kennedy, Austin, and even the world at large, you know, really, this happens to be, if not the best World Cup of all time, in terms of facilities, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of, you know, now coming to football itself, even the way they brought all the legends. You know, we saw many we have not seen in a long time. Roberto Baggio, every country brought their legends, and they were, you know, showcased. They were part as ambassadors of the tournament. There were a lot of corporate social responsibilities that they added that gave them a lot of PR. Don't forget, Qatar came into this tournament, hosting this tournament, they were at the lowest of those in terms of PR. A lot of people were talking about human rights issues. A lot of people were talking about, you know, how they're going to manage people who had different sexual orientation, many things. There were a lot of controversies around this tournament.
Let me just come in because some of those issues that was right there in Qatar, that was what FIFA was trying to say we should, really try not to talk about, even though we know we talk about some of the things outside the field. But let's talk about the football itself. What was the quality? What was the quality of the football in Qatar?
That's what I'm going. That when you look at everything they had to contend with, and then you have to pitch that, coming from that kind of low, and then ending the tournament on a super high. I mean, that is for me, that is the story. I mean, they came in, they had to battle and wrestle with the world, especially the Europeans. They had to contend with a lot of issues, but they managed it well. And I must say kudos to Gianni Infantino also, the FIFA president. He stood his ground. He was a leader and was able to distract us from or take us from all of those lows, all of those issues, and took us to the football. He reminded us why we are here in the first instance. And every game along the line, whether Saudi Arabia defeating almighty Argentina, and many other results, even Morocco getting to the semi-final. Now, everybody now focused on the football. And for me, the football was something else. How can you tell me that a France that was that depleted, you don't have Christopher Nkunku, who is hot at the moment. You don't have Karim Benzema. You don't have, Paul Pogba. You don't have N'Golo Kante. You don't have almost 6 or 7 major players. And suddenly, and yet they found themselves in the final of the tournament. That is courage. That is team effort. And kudos to Didier Deschamps. So if you look at the managers that got to the final, kudos to them. Look at the teams that got to the final, and they gave us a masterpiece, an El Clasico that we may never see again in another decade or two. That was an El Clasico. I mean, how can you tell me that Argentina was leading France 2-0 into the 70-something minutes, and yet France bounced back, and we saw the end of the tournament? I mean, that was the height of, I shed some tears myself because, I've covered football for many years, and I mean, like everybody has said, I can't seem to agree less. Agree more.
And that was what I was trying to explain. Well, let me bring in Kehinde Idris. Argentina at the start of this competition. Yes, I remember when we were previewing the teams, we talked about them, the stars that they have, and what Scaloni can do. Coming from them winning the Copa America. But did you ever think, Kehinde Idris, that Messi was going to go all the way and lift the trophy?
I for one, tipped Argentina, to go all the way, not sentimentally. Their run built up to the World Cup, 35 games unbeaten, 3 years not beaten. Brazil, went under the anointing all that period, and so many other big nations. So they had an antecedent, they had a build up to the World Cup. And then the World Cup started. First game, voila, they lost to Saudi Arabia. And I think for me, probably for Argentina, they should go back to that game and thank their stars that it happened that way. 10th minute, Lionel Messi got a penalty, he scored, and then it felt like we were coasting until Saudi Arabia brought them back to reality. And that reality, I guess, was the check they needed to go all the way to the final. They would have had that check against maybe a bigger team that would have been at a delicate moment. So after that game, they understood. But look at, you're talking about, teams like Brazil, France, and all of that. Argentina understand what they needed to do. After Saudi Arabia game, you need to be warriors. Now, forget whether it's a beautiful style of football. Yes, you have a setup. A coach must always set up. But for every minute, you need to fight all the way. And at the end, some of their players said, we suffered to get to this point. They knew what they went through. Yeah. Probably quarterfinals will tell you a lot of stories, and also the final. Against Netherlands, they were 2 goals up. They went down and all of that. Went to extra time. And, this is why I think this victory is even sweeter. Like Tayo Daramola said, some people, even if you're not a supporter of Argentina, had tears in their eyes because of the breakdown of the whole tournament and then the final, the way it climaxed and all of that. Then, see, I wasn't asked that, but maybe I need to add this. A World Cup that comes in every 4 years is a festival. Yes, we are all there to celebrate football, but we find a way to comb everything, bring it together, make all the people visiting like Austin to enjoy themselves, not feeling like they are far from home. And I think Qatar really took that to another level. Yeah. There was almost something to party about every day in the most decent way. And then also you enjoy your football alongside. So it was a proper festival, and at the end of the day, football still won.
Okay, talking about football winning, but there are lessons we also need to learn from what Morocco, the team who got to the semi-finals, the first African team to do that, and the governor of Bayelsa State, who was in Qatar, has something to say concerning that.
There is this misconception and misunderstanding that government should be the driver. No, 1,000 times no. Government will provide the enabling environment in terms of a fair environment where the private sector will thrive. Government has to partner with the private sector. Well, you've seen the facilities there. When I say facilities, I'm not referring to only the football stadium. I'm talking about even the hotel accommodations. These are not owned by government. They are owned by private, corporate individuals. So, for me, government should provide the enabling environment. What is our interest rate? If somebody comes to take a loan facility, for instance, the interest rate is so high. And so people are scared. Even those who are prepared to invest are scared. And so for me, the business of government is to ensure that in all ramifications, they prepare that environment that will be friendly to the investor, that they will prepare that environment that will make people who come there have that sense of security in their investment.
All right, I think from what he has explained and what he has said, government actually needs to really drive infrastructure when you want football to be big in a country. I'm going to throw this question to Doc. I believe he listened to what Governor Diri has to say concerning infrastructure and also the fact that you also have to make sports a business. Well, I mean, you listen to him, he literally tick all the boxes when we talk about sport development in Nigeria. Can we really do this sincerely?
Of course, what you had there was a political statement. So usually when I hear them, I just smile or laugh. I mean, I thought the man would then come back to Nigeria from Qatar and then put up all the football clubs in Bayelsa for sale, so to say. Allow the private hands to come in and take over Bayelsa Queens, Bayelsa United and all of that in the NWFL. I thought that's what he should do. After a few months, you've seen, we have been talking about that for a long time. So when they make political statements like this, I then wonder who will build the car. I mean, it's very simple. I mean, nobody, and he made an erroneous statement, which is not very, very incorrect for him to say that, people believe that government should be the driver. No, who are the people? If he's talking about those people around them, who together, they've turned these football clubs and all that, sports generally, into conduits, and all of that. That's a different matter. But the point here is that we are waiting for somebody that will say, I'm coming as a governor of this state, and football or anything of that or sports management is not my business. It's not something I want to do. If you want us to support infrastructure, we will support infrastructure. And then the owners of the clubs, the football clubs, can be paying money, can be paying money. We have said it here many times. The San Siro belongs to a municipal. That is a local government. The San Siro belongs to a local government in Italy. And they are getting money from both AC Milan and, Inter Milan. So everybody understands this. And I said it the last time I came on this show. The best time Nigerian football was everywhere, that everybody loved it, and even private investors were putting money without having to be pushed. Was when we were watching the likes of Abiola Babes, NMB and all of those, we can go, the list is endless. So
yeah,
if the likes of
I'll just pause you. I'll just pause you. Pause you. You'll get back to what you're saying. We just need to go on a quick break now. It's Sports Tonight on Channels Television. When we come back, it's all about the lessons Nigeria can learn from Qatar hosting the 2022 FIFA World Cup. So don't go anywhere. Stay.
Welcome back from that break. Let's quickly take a listen to, Austin talked about the lessons we've learned from Qatar, what lessons we can actually learn from Qatar. And he spoke with the Deputy Governor of Edo State, who was also in Qatar to watch the World Cup?
I think the organization is perfect, and the taste of the people is something marvelous. And when I look at not just the football that I've come to watch alone, I see even the cleaner, the passion at which the cleaner is doing his work is something amazing. Everybody has a role, and they are playing it to the latter. And it shows it's a reflection of the leadership that you have here, discipline and dedication. So, and a small Qatar, I don't think it's up to any of the Nigerian state in terms of population and size. They are able to utilize their oil to create what we have here. With 12 years down the line, they created all these things. So it means that when you have a leader that is ready to make a change and he has a vision to develop, he can really do it. This World Cup is something amazing. And some of the facilities that I see here, though I'm told some of them are temporary, even one or two of the stadium will be dismantled. It shows the vision, because what the facility I've seen here means that Qatar should be the next tourism destination. Nigeria has all the potential in terms of tourism. No part of Nigeria that you cannot see one monument, one thing that can drive tourism. And sport is one aspect of life. When you want to sell your product, the easiest way you can really sell it is through sport. So I'm sure that with what I've seen here, obviously here will be a tourist destination. And if we can replicate it in Nigeria in terms of development, not just building structure at the end of the day abandoned. Business and government have to collaborate to build sport in Nigeria. And that's what I've seen here. Business, private sector, government coming together to encourage sports. And in the long run, government is the one that will really benefit, because all these facilities we are seeing, they are private sector driven.
Talking about private sector driven tourism, and that can be achieved through sport. I believe, Kende, you will agree completely with him, although Dapo talked about political statement that some of them make. But can they really, do this if a CCC government, you mentioned San Siro, owned by local government?
Yeah. Like we always say, I think it's obvious everybody knows what should be done. Everybody knows where to put the next foot, where to put your next hand. Everybody knows where our head should go next to. But the simple question is, will we? Because to be truthful with each other, we are not a sincere people, Cecilia. This whole thing, the cleaners that Shaibu mentioned now, all of the staffs, the top hierarchy and everybody were consciously sincere with each other. They knew where they're starting from and they know where they are going to. And everybody had that dream all together. There is no disunity. There is no diversification. We want to go this way. Everybody went. There was no interest. The only interest was by 2022, the World Cup should be the best ever seen in this world. And everybody went through that dream. Can we? It's a question. We should ask those, like I always say, who can sanction, decisions? The administrators. I cannot tell Cecilia, don't do this on Sports Tonight. But the administrator in Channels TV can tell you not to, and you will listen. Even if I tell you and he's right, you might be like, who is he? But administrator will tell you and you will listen. That is where the problem is. Okay. Your administrators, you are the one who can sanction. You are from Edo State. Let it start from Edo State. Do you Dire from Bayelsa? Let it start from Bayelsa. Like Do you said, in Lagos State, they don't own a club. Lagos State does not own a club.
But he owns two.
But they own two. Lagos State creates enabling. There is MJA, Mobolaji Johnson. There is the Teslim Balogun. Agege Stadium is untouchable. About 4 stadiums, thereabout. And Lagos State does not own one. If you create a club, we give you the enabling environment and the backing. That is what it should be. See, we're talking of want to host and all of that. One Super Eagles game, one Super Falcons game will give us headache for like months for us to host.
I think Austin is ready now. I mean,
Yeah.
it's okay. Yeah.
Yes, Cecilia, I totally agree with Dapo and Kende Idris's comments. Why I did those interviews when I saw the governor of Bayelsa State and the deputy governor of Edo State, it was important because they are leaders and their state, to an extent, has been, doing well with sports development. So I needed to know the lessons from an administrative point of view, because we know that they know, but sometimes, maybe bureaucracy, governance, or the lack of will to do the right things. But we know, for instance, Bayelsa State, they've been, in our faces. Imagine Bayelsa State finishing second at the National Sports Festival. See what they are doing with Bayelsa Queens, see what they're doing with Bayelsa United. And the governor was a former commissioner of sports. So it was important to get them accountable. Let's listen to them and know the vision that they have. I'm sure maybe tomorrow our producer will play the second part of that interview where he was talking about some of the things they need to do in Bayelsa State, and he mentioned infrastructure. But what I want to say to them is, each time I talk about building an enabling environment, if it is not stable, if it's not backed up by will, commitment, determination, respecting international standards, you're not going to get this private sector coming to it.
Yeah.
Because it's business. If I don't see benefits in it, I'm not going to come put my money into it. It's as simple as that. So that's what our leaders should start thinking. It should go beyond the talk. So now they have said it. I like what Philip Shaibu said about using sports for tourism. There are a lot of potentials, possibilities, a lot of things we can do with sports development in Nigeria. And this is a good way to start the conversation.
Before we go to Dakpo, Austin, let's just take a look at the facts and figures coming from the Qatar 2022 World Cup. There's a whole lot we need to know about, what happened, the facts, the figures, and the things we really need to understand how this World Cup was able to, give us something we can, the history. I mean, every time it's like every time you look at your screen and you discover that there were so many things that happened, really, the facts and figures from the World Cup. For instance, Argentina captain Lionel Messi lifted the coveted winners trophy for the first time in his career while notching his record 26th FIFA World Cup appearances. And not just that, he also won the Adidas Golden Ball along the way. Now, 26th appearance, I mean, that's the most appearance when it comes to the FIFA World Cup. Mbappe, of course, became the only second player to score a hat-trick in the FIFA World Cup final since 1996, finishing as the tournament top scorer with 8 goals to take home the Adidas Golden Boots. And when he was going to collect it, he wasn't really happy at all. He wanted a second World Cup. The 6-goal final helped make it the highest scoring FIFA World Cup ever. And of course, a total of 172 goals were scored, eclipsing the previous tournament record of 171 goals achieved in 1998 and, of course, 2014. 1998, of course, was in France. 2014 was in Brazil. Brazil were one of those who conceded the most goals, 7 in all. Attendance for the final match pushed the cumulative total for this FIFA World Cup over 3.4 million spectators with an average attendance capacity of 96.3%. And of course, the top visiting nations to Qatar were obviously Saudi Arabia, India, USA, UK, and Mexico. Now, we know India did not qualify, but most of their supporters were rooting for, we know the team, Argentina. Now, you're wondering how Argentina and Messi won the World Cup. People from Pakistan, everywhere were actually supporting. But these are the facts coming from the FIFA World Cup. When I talk about this fact, it simply means that from now till maybe the next World Cup, we'll keep talking about it if USA, Canada, and of course, Mexico will be able to beat this particular record that was set in Qatar.
Exactly. Look at the goals record. Thanks to the final, I will go back to, Lionel Messi and Kylian Mbappe.
6.
Turning up the magic to eclipse 171. That was the record, to make it 172. And there was something about the Qatar 2022 World Cup. It was an awkward time, World Cup in the winter, awkward place, World Cup in the desert. So we wanted to see, and I was proud to say it happened in my generation.
Yeah.
And then that was, built up to the start. And when it started, we wanted to see something different. And the shockers, Africa took part of it, where we had all our teams winning at the group stage, and then winning about 7 games even at that period. And then we had an African getting to the semi-final, and so many other shockers. One of the shockers I won't forget, though they didn't win, but I love the game. Belgium against Canada. If you saw that game, it took Belgium. That, chance, I think it was just a slip moment for Canada, for Batshuayi to get that goal. It would have been another shocker talked about. You don't want to talk about Tunisia, France, Brazil, Cameroon, and a host of so many others. So the World Cup had to give us this. Messi, most minutes, eclipsing what Maldini had before. Messi now standing on his own as most minutes had by a player. And then look at the goals. 10 goals record for every Argentine. He made it 12 right now. And then it goes on and on. I think if we want to sit with the records that this World Cup, whether created or broke, I think we won't leave here today.
We won't leave here because it's so much. And that's why when Messi woke up in the morning, he was posing with the trophy. You know what it means? Yeah. You wake up, this is what you want. This is what you've been dreaming about. And this is what you wanted. He slept with it and he woke up with it and made it a picture.
I was telling somebody, I said, Antonella will be struggling with who does Messi loves the most now, the cup or me?
And he woke up, drinking his whatever he's drinking, maybe juice or anything.
Where is Rokuzo right now? Please go to the other room.
This is how you feel. And of course,
so guys, let me just comment. Cecilia, this is what it means to rub it in. Not going to cover the World Cup.
You know what it means.
One Messi doing, and you see they're all doing it for the gram. Like, go and pay the other guys, because we were putting the old GOAT talk, who is the greatest, the Messi, the Ronaldo. Now you have the trophy, Messi. Don't let them rest, So that's all we're saying. Don't forget, he has already broken the record for the most likes on social media for that post they put up when they won the trophy. So I think this is just a huge turnaround for Messi's career, and I totally agree with him that he shouldn't call it quits now.
Yeah, he shouldn't. So let's go to Dakpo quickly. Dakpo, Messi, the record set. We've talked about the goals, the different things that happen in Qatar. And the fans were actually at the airport at 3 a.m. welcoming, the victorious team. 3 a.m. Argentine time, 6 a.m. our own time. That's remarkable for fans. 3 a.m. waiting for them to actually arrive with the trophy to, celebrate with their team. How does that, a situation like that, how does it really make the players feel? Because I've never experienced it. You've seen thousands of fans, 3 a.m. in the morning, you've seen all of them just embracing, celebrating, chanting and singing in the cold.
I think first and foremost, that is what they call when a nation is fired up. They are fired up, and yes, Messi may never rank in the world of Diego Armando Maradona, but I would think that in the world of sports, and looking out for a national icon, maybe after Maradona, of course, there's no other person than Lionel Messi. Truly, he's an inspiration. From like some of the things we are saying here, what are the lessons from this World Cup? One of it is very simple in life, because football teaches us. My wife is yet she's yet to process the fact that France will bounce back, and that eventually Argentina will win that World Cup. Because it was the magnitude of that game, the lessons to learn from that game are so much, And so for me, Lionel Messi has inspired a generation. He has inspired a nation. He has inspired outside Argentina, many others, to believe in themselves, that it doesn't matter how many times you make an attempt. This is the 5th attempt, and shockingly, it looked as if it was going to slip away from his hands, and he never gave up. The coach never gave up. And somehow, with the likes of Emiliano Martinez, we cannot forget him in this entire story. He saved them during the game. He saved them in the penalties. So it wasn't just a Messi show. Yes, even though it was the one that showed out the team, but he had lieutenants, who stood solidly behind him. He was a general that led his team to war. You'll be likened to the likes of Winston Churchill, who led the nation. You'll be likened to Alexander the Great, who led, the conquering of the world. He has many people, to be likened to. That is why you can see this image you are seeing right now. And for me, Lionel Messi, has entered into the realms of the greats. One of the greats, he will be. Like I said, it may not be, it doesn't matter how much we look at it, it may not be Diego Armando Maradona, but he's second in line, and he has shown that, yes. Like I said the last time I came on this show, you remember that after Maradona, I can't remember when next any other person came until Lionel Messi came on the stage. I don't know whether you're going to see another Lionel Messi in Argentine football or even in world football in the next 10, 20 years. But the fact remains that, you know, he has joined the greats, and is a place that he deserves. He paid the price, he has done the work, and he has kept the faith. He's fought a good fight, like we say in the scriptures. And overall, I mean, for me, he has actually won the prize. So overall, it's a lesson to all of us. Don't give up. No matter how many times you fail sometimes, no matter even when you're conquering other areas, but there's a particular one that you need, or utmostly, and it's not coming your way. Messi has reminded us that don't give up. You know, we used to quote the likes of what's it called, Abraham Lincoln, who made efforts in the world of politics and it didn't come to pass. Messi has joined that kind of narrative, and that is something you can't take away.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you totally. And Argentina, of course, are not the only team that returned home. The French national team were also welcome, despite the fact that, well, they got to the final, they couldn't win it. It was a painful one for them that even the likes of Kylian Mbappe were not even happy collecting that golden boot that he won. So the fans, of course, came out in numbers to also welcome them. They had to meet with the fans, just celebrating with them. Another joyous moment for Les Bleus. But at the end of the day, the supporters just chanting, greeting them, celebrating with them. We saw Olivier Giroud, Antoine Griezmann. They were the only ones who were hyped up. When I saw Kylian Mbappe actually clapping, I'm like, okay, maybe he has overcome the disappointment, not being able to win it back to back. Yes, it's painful, but hey, this is it. Finishing second as well.
They should be proud, Cecilia. They should be proud of what they achieved at this World Cup, the French team. What a story. While we were here celebrating Messi and everything, when Dapper was speaking, I was, getting in line to the inspiring things he was saying that we can learn from this football. Mbappe was about 19 or 20 when he won the World Cup. And Messi is 35 now with everything he has done. Nearly 2 decades of active football, and he is just winning the World Cup. And Mbappe and his teammates are feeling sad that he couldn't retain the World Cup. It means when you're up there, you must try and do everything to stay up there. But this French team, they can only be proud. If you take a look at how they started the campaign, with the way almost every week we're talking about a major player that will not be competing at the World Cup. And Deschamps went there and found a way to turn things around. Every lineup he put out at this World Cup had doubts. People were doubting, how would this French team play? And then they just kept on going and going till the final. They were quiet till about the 75th minute, and they pushed a determined Argentine side that already had their eyes on the trophy, pushed them all the way. They should be proud of themselves.
They should be proud. It was written in the stars for Argentina anyway. All right, another team that also received Heroes Welcome happens to be the Moroccan national team, the only African team who got to the semi-finals. The first to ever do that. Of course, the fourth to get to the quarterfinals. I mean, just look at the crowd in Morocco. When they arrived in Rabat earlier this morning, the Atlas Lion exceeded all forms of expectation. I love the fact it was a national airline. I mean, I was just with someone in the newsroom like, if we win anything, how are we going to come back? Okay. But then, I mean, the fact that they knocked out big teams, Portugal, Spain, and of course, at the group stage, also beating Belgium. That one, we'll just wrap this up with you. I mean, for the Moroccan team, where would they go from here, getting to the semi-finals of the World Cup? I know people will be looking at 2026. Maybe they can also push up surprise. That's if Coach Walid Mean is allowed to complete what he started with the team. Dapo.
First and foremost, I think, I wish I had a heart that I should have done it for the Moroccans, but I'm clapping and celebrating the guys. I mean, really, that's a shocker. He really getting to stunning everybody. I mean, Hakim Ziyech has had a very terrible season with Chelsea, but I mean, he was just recalled back to the Moroccan national team, and you can see, how inspiring he was alongside Amrabat and others. I mean, what else can we say? I mean, some have said maybe if the team had no injuries, they could have pushed France, and it could have been a different story. And well, it could be there or there, but overall, they've raised the bar. Now, I mean, for Africans now, we're not looking at Senegal anymore, quarter-finalists. Now we are looking, at Morocco. So nobody can say we can't do it. Now that means that the next African team that will do something great, it could take some time, but we are now, the bar now is no more quarter-final, no more semi-final, but the bar is not the final. So, I mean, they pushed it there. They pushed Africans. They represented us well. I mean, you asked a very valid question. What next should they be doing? France did it, back-to-back final. Who says they cannot do it? They have the team. They have a good coach. They should keep preparing. Whatever they are doing right now, they should keep doing. They have a very solid, national league. You know, that's why they are doing so well in the CAF Confederations Cup. History tells us that they've won it the most. And so that means that on the home front, they are doing something fantastic.
Yes.
I mean, we pray that their footballers will keep getting, good deals abroad. Many of them were born in France. I wish they will keep getting good deals, and they can, forge more. I mean, Nigeria, we did it before, from 1990 to 1994 to 1996. We showed the world that there's progression. So who says they cannot progress? If they can keep this team, they can keep working on themselves psychologically. Their heads should be on their shoulders. Who says they cannot go, to the next World Cup and then still put up a great show? It could be another quarterfinal, it could be another semi-final. The bottom line is that they have the team to represent themselves and to represent Africa, on a big stage, and they can do it once again. But once again, I say, I wish I had the heart, to do for the boys, but they've done excellently well.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dapo, for coming on the show today, for joining us.
Always a pleasure. Nice seeing you.
Thank you. All right, we still have some few times left, so quickly we'll touch down on NWFL. There's so much to talk about when it comes to the World Cup. Of course, we know we'll still keep talking about the World Cup, but then we're leaving it and quickly talk about Nigerian Women's Football League. Yes, games for tomorrow. I mean, the way it all started this season was the fact that Edo Queens went away from home, they lost, but they've been able to, do something about that. Now take a look at Group A, the games for tomorrow. Royal Queens and Bayelsa Queens will be in action. You also have Oshun Babes and Delta Queens will also be in action. Rivers Angels and Niger Rats is another team that will be in action from Group A. And flip over to Group B, what we have on that day would be Confluence Queens and, of course, Abia Angels. Edo Queens and Adamawa Queens will also be in action. For Edo Queens, they came to Lagos, beating FC Robo in the last game right here in Lagos, 2-1. Ibom Angels and, of course, FC Robo will be in action. FC Robo will try to go to, Akwa Ibom and see if they can, get something away from home because they lost at home. But the league this season, it started late. Yes, it wasn't when it was supposed to start. But at the end of the day, we'll be having good results. Just last week, you have Heartland Queens.
Yeah.
10 women Heartland Queens. I mean, holding Bayelsa Queens, the champions, and also a team who won bronze medal at the CAF Champions League women goalless game. Just a quick one to wrap this up.
Firstly, for the third time in 3 years thereabout, or 3 seasons, the NWFL is starting before the NPFL.
Okay, I like that.
So you should continue to learn from the
Yeah.
NWFL. If you guys who are handling the NPFL cannot, do things on your own.
December 28th will start.
Tentatively still. And for the games, it's starting just the way it normally does. The fight and all of that. I still have my eyes on Niger Rattles again.
Okay, Austin, we got to go.
Yeah, we got to go, but I think the women should, show the men the way. Let them know what they are doing, to achieve this level of consistency and development in our league football. That's the show. In London, I'm Austin Okonakpan. In everything you do, remember, keep talking sports. Bye for now.
Kende Idris, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
It's always lovely being here.
Thank you so much for watching. I'm Cecilia Omogbe. Have a great night rest.